Gundam.tk presents High Grade Anksha. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2 R's 2 B's from Gundam Reviews.net. And as you can see from this empty pile of pretty much green and gray plates, with just a little bit of orange and red, the parts are all put together, which means it's time to put this transforming monster of an Earth Federation suit together in the form of the RAS-96 Anksha. In terms of the main body, you're going to have the legs, a ridiculous looking waist, cool looking chest, and some very cool unique arms to go along with the binders, and one of the most interesting heads I think I've ever seen on a kit. You've got the nice 1/144th action base there with extender and 2 arms, a custom mount part, and you're going to have 2 of these things, one that's used to put the jest on. You're also going to be getting those little hand clips, or sorry, if you want to put a Jagan or something on its back, which is just going to make a lot of fans happy. You've got an extra set of manipulators and 2 green beam sabers. Bottom to top, taking a look at these, sadly you're going to hear a familiar refrain in terms of complaints. But first of all, let's start with the positives, where you're going to have some pretty cool looking mechanical designs on here. I really like the designs of it. The inside and the outsides look unique enough with this cool thing sticking off to the side and this little hip armor here. The foot itself, if you start down there, is going to bend about this much. The heel is locked into place except for the fact that you can move it around like that. Off to the side, not as much range as you'd expect. Cool looking thrusters there, and then you're going to be able to bend the knee this way and this way, so you're going to get almost a 180 with that. Very impressive for a transforming suit, although I wonder if you'll need it for that. And this knee part is also going to wiggle up and down. Where the problems get in though is when you take a look at the seals. These white parts, these yellow parts, these black parts are not provided by plastic. It's all just done by paper that you're going to put on. And if you take a look at this, you're folding it all over this in a 3D space. You're putting this in on the inside, same with this and same with this. You've got to fold it all over. You're going to have to put in a lot of effort to get them on and look right, but ultimately there's enough yellow and white on here that you think Bandai should have been putting that on one of those plates. I'm sure the MS designer had a good time putting this together and getting lots of laughs around the office. In terms of the waist though, you're not going to be able to move the hips, they're just solid, and the skirts here are non-independent, so they're just going to move like this. However, underneath you're going to have a red part there, which unfortunately, unlike real grades where they've gone to the trouble of putting in an extra yellow piece, they didn't go to that bother with this kit's over-reliance on seals. It is a plus that they have a great piece of plastic, and yes, this Gonzo's nose, if you don't like that red part, I suppose it's going to be useful for always covering it up. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say that's appropriate. The chest and backpack here are looking pretty ridiculous as well, although this is not going to be the focus, certainly when it's transformed, and you're not really going to be noticing it because I think all your attention is going to be going to its strange-looking arms. Anyway, in its open position, you can see that there's a slider here which is going to pull this part out. This is going to be used in the transformation, and you're going to pop this red part right off. But I think that the color on here is going to look fantastic that you've got it. And then you can seal it back up, and when you do that, you're going to have a pretty cool looking chest. Back to the familiar refrain that you've got green seals on here when it could have been plastic. However, for the shoulders, they are going to move up and down, which is a plus, and a little bit forward and back, so you should be getting some decent arm mobility. This part here feels pretty solid when it's on there, but this part is going to open up. And then you also have the ability to swing these around, and these little green flaps are going to move ever so slightly. But how about these arms, which are just looking like a fantastic part of a circle here? They are very, very cool and almost worth buying the kit for, just for how unique and silly these are. I mean, this is going to be a love or hate it kind of thing, I'm sure, for a lot of people. In terms of the shoulders, you can see you've got a polycap there on the inside that's going to go up and down. And then you've got this gray part, which in addition to pivoting is going to allow this part to move all over the place. And part of that is that it's going to come in and allow this whole thing to seal up. And you can see that there's no difficulty in doing that. However, back to the same old story, you've got this gray sticker down there, which is looking good on the arm. It breaks up the color variation here. You've also got these gray ones, which I don't really mind because you can't make any mistakes when you're putting those on as long as you put the right ones in the right place. Down here for the forearms though, there are some missing color wraps. These should be done in orange if you look at the pro painted one on the side. They could have gone along with these ones kind of thing if they had taken the time to include some orange pieces though. And it just seems like this manipulator is going to be coming out at a little bit of an awkward angle, so that really can't be helped I think with the overall arc here. But overall, I'd say that they're really positive, really fun and easy to transform, and I suppose you'll pop those off for the transformation, and you can just pop in the binders here, which are looking really, really sharp, I'd say, just for the fact that they've got this gray on the green, which I'm a big fan of this combination. White seals over here, these are some of the less off-putting ones though, although they didn't bend around. Often Bandai will give you a part that bends. If it bends, it's going to cover up more, but then it's more likely to come off, so I suppose that this is better here. You are going to be able to move the binders up and down. You can see that it's a nice smooth slide in there, which is going to be used for the transformation. And this gray part down here at the end is actually made up of 2 parts, although they are pretty nondescript. Outside of the binders, it's the beam sabers that are going to provide the only armament here, and you can see that they're looking pretty cool with these oversized parts there. And you've got nice long ones here, and these are the round variety, not the flat kind. I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of these fist-type manipulators here instead of using these ones. These ones are great for the weapons and you'll use them for the beam sabers, but if they're going to give you 4, outside of the dynamic open hand one, if they want to go for a 5th, I'd say that this is probably the coolest combination they could do. And lots of attachments, which are going to be used in mobile suit mode. You can use a 1/100th action base or the 1/144th that's included if you pop on this adapter. This has always been an issue. Things like the Nobel Gundam stand won't hold up some other kits that otherwise a regular 1/144th kit stand could, and I am a big fan. Yes, get your Jeggins, get them on top, and they can go for a ride, thanks to the fact that they've got these handles, which are not included all the time though, so you can just throw those in a Ziploc and hopefully they won't go missing. I already talked about the arms being reason enough to buy this kit, but ultimately it's going to come down to this ridiculous looking head, and for me, it's ridiculous in a good way. You've got a seal there on the back, one of the less off-putting ones of this whole thing, and you can see some pretty obvious seam marks there. You've got a nice little part on the top. Lots of cut marks here are going to be visible unless you've got a green real touch marker or something to go over it with. And when you take a look at the front, the most important part, I'd say that this is just too cool for school. You've got a great looking face there. You can put some little black marking in there for the Vulcans. You've got a nice green piece there for the face and that clear orange part in there. We've already seen it on things like the Jest, and I'm glad that they continue that trend. The clear part here is so much better than the seals, and when you combine that with the fact that you can actually slide this forward and back when it's on the neck, this is going to have more mobility than you'd have on some other suits, and cool, ridiculous, unique, right there. This is enough reason to be keen to put this thing together. So I'm going to be doing just that in the next part of this review, so why don't you let me know with a comment down below. Love to hear from you. What do you think about the parts? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people unhappy with the seal situation, as I am. I mean, some of these, the parts are too small to get the 2 colors on there, but when you see the one done up by a pro, you can just see how great that is. Now, painters are going to have no issues going ahead and doing that up themselves. It just seems when you've got a seal this big covering up a surface area that large, that's when it's time, Bandai, especially when you don't have a multicolored A-plate, to get some white on there, and then they could have thrown in the bonus of the orange. But outside of that, the key parts, the unique parts, the transforming parts, and they're going to throw in a whole bunch of bonuses in terms of manipulators and attachment parts, those are all looking good, and if this kind of thing can save it, then I'm sure I can get past the seals. But why don't you stick around and find out? And of course, I'd love to hear your opinion so that people can see a whole plethora of them down below. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye. Too cool for school? Indeed.